Hello, everyone. This is Steve Risser from Sports Talk with RKJ for your AFC South preview. First, we'll do a quick overview of the division from last year. The Texans, after starting 0-3, the Texans won the division at 11-5 last year, and a big reason for that was Deshaun Watson getting hot in the second half of the season. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney playing well. They won the division, but they ended up losing to the Colts in the first round of the playoffs. The Colts started 1-5 last year, and we all remember Frank Wright's weird call when he went for it on 4th and 1 in a Colts-Texans game, which gave the Texans their first win of the season. The Colts started 1-5, but then ended up winning 9 of their last 10 games, ended up making the playoffs, beating the Texans, and then eventually losing to the Chiefs in the divisional round. The Titans went 9-7 last year. They had some real highs. Monday night they beat the Cowboys by a couple scores. They beat the Patriots, but they also had some lows where they got blown out by the Colts and the Ravens at times last year too. So the Titans ended up 9-7, missing the playoffs and actually losing the last game of the season to the Colts to miss the playoffs. And the Jaguars, who came into the season with really high expectations, started out 3-1, but ended up eventually falling apart and ended up going 5-11, which resulted in them getting rid of Blake Bortles as their starting quarterback, who they benched at midseason last year. We're going to start with the Colts, who I think are the favorite to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. And here's why. I think Andrew Luck is really good. I think this offensive line has really came together. I think Marlon Mack has played really well. First, we'll start with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck had a really good year last year, really good comeback. A lot of people thought he might not even be able to play again. He had a really, really good comeback season last year and was able to lead the Colts to the playoffs. Marlon Mack really stepped up in the second half of the season last year. He had 4 games where he rushed for over 100 yards, and then he rushed for 148 yards in the playoff victory over the Houston Texans. The receiving core I like. I like T.Y. Hilton. I did think they overpaid for Devin Funchess, but they had a lot of cap space, so they had to make a move. They had to get someone, and they drafted Paris. They drafted Paris Campbell in the second round. So the thing about the Colts is that Chris Ballard's doing a great job building through the draft. They're building through the draft. They're not going crazy in free agency. They're making some small deals in free agency, but they're not going crazy in free agency. We look at one of the big reasons this team made a jump last year, and one of them was the offensive line. Another one was Eric Ebron had a pretty good year last year, even though I think Andrew Luck makes Ebron better than he actually is. I think Eric Ebron had a good year last year, but the biggest reason was how this offensive line really came together. And that draft pick of Quentin Nelson with the number 5 overall pick in 2008, number 6 overall pick in 2018, that was a great pick. That was an outstanding pick getting Quentin Nelson. He was an All-Pro last year. He really solidified that offensive line. Anthony Costanzo then played well when he got back to the lineup in Week 6. Mark Glowinski played well. Ryan Kelly played well, and also Brandon Smith played well. So this offensive line is really good, and that's what Andrew Luck didn't have in the Ryan Grigson days. Ryan Grigson did a terrible job building this team around Andrew Luck. He was playing with horrendous offensive lines. Now he's got a really good offensive line. Chris Ballard built for him, and I think Andrew Luck's going to have an outstanding season this year, and this Colts offense is going to be really, really good this year, especially with Frank Wright, offensive-minded head coach. You got Andrew Luck, who's a top 5 quarterback in this league, and then you got a really good offensive line, and then Marlon Mack, who played really well last year. This is a recipe for an offense that's going to be really, really good this year. We go over to the defensive side of the ball for the Colts. Their defensive line is pretty good. D'Amico Autry had a pretty good year. Jabal Sheard wasn't bad. And they also took a chance signing Justin Houston, which he's been very injury-prone over the last 4 years. Ever since his 22.5 sack season in 2014, over the last 4 years, he's missed 21 games combined. So that's a lot of games to miss. That's a ton of games to miss for Justin Houston. We look at the linebacking core, and this another player the Colts got last year, and they got in the second round, who's an absolute stud, and that's Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard is an outstanding player. He could stop the run. He can do it all. He could stop the run. He could cover. That was a great, great pick by Chris Ballard in the second round last year. The Colts were one of the first teams, I think, since the Bears in the 50s to have 2 rookies who were all pros, Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson. That really, really turns your team around right there. Looking at the secondary, that's probably the weakest part of the Colts defense with Desir, Moore, Wilson, Hooker, and Gathers. But this front 7 is pretty good. The offense is definitely the strength of the team, but the defense is definitely capable. It's a better defense than the Chiefs. This is why I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, because I think offensively they're better than the Patriots, and I think defensively they're better than the Chiefs. So they're the most solid team out of those group of 3 teams, I think, in the AFC. That's why I think that they are the favorite to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. And that's why I'm going 13-3 for the Colts, and I'm picking them to go to the Super Bowl. I think the Colts go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. I think this team goes to the Super Bowl this year. This is the year Andrew Luck gets there. Year 2 with Frank Reich, I think, is a monster year. And as I've said, the defense is good enough where I think the Colts represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. We'll go down to Houston and talk about the Texans. And it seems like the Texans have been kind of knocking at this door for the last, 5-6 years. I mean, they've always kind of been good. They're kind of like these Oiler teams from the late 80s, early 90s. They're always knocking on the door, but they never really get to where they need to get to. But, I mean, this team has still this team has a lot of talent this year. Deshaun Watson back for year 3. He's proven he's a franchise quarterback. Lamar Miller's proven he's a capable running back. They got one of the, outside of Julio Jones, the best wide receiver in football in DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is an outstanding player. Didn't even drop a ball last year. He's top 2. He's right there with Julio, with one of the best wide receivers in the game. Also, they got Will Fuller, but he has to have trouble staying healthy. But that combination between Watson and Hopkins has been outstanding, and it definitely was last year, and I think it will be this year too. The biggest issue with the Texans, and I think this is the biggest issue between the Texans and the Colts, is the offensive lines. The offensive lines are night and day, and the offensive line for the Texans is absolutely terrible. I mean, and they really didn't address it that much. The biggest thing they did in the offseason was draft Titus Howard, and he's not even starting. He's not even starting at right tackle. That's your first-round pick to address the offensive line. The Texans' offensive line, this is what's I think going to hold them back from being a good team to a great team, because they got good skill guys. They got really good players on defense, got a franchise quarterback. This is the thing that holds them back from a good team to a great team. That's why Trent Williams going there would make great sense. If Trent Williams could get there, that could probably give them 2 extra wins this year. I mean, Trent Williams going there would make perfect sense. It would be perfect for the Texans to get Trent Williams. Looking on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, obviously they got J.J. Watt, who is definitely one of the best defensive players in the league. He's outstanding. Jadeveon Clowney, they got to hope he shows up to training camp. I mean, he's a really good player when he shows up. Linebacking core is pretty good too, with Broderick McKinney and Zach Cunningham. Then you look at the secondary and Whitney Merciless, and then you look at the secondary, and that's definitely the question mark for the Houston Texans. I mean, yes, they lost Tyrann Mathieu. It wasn't great last year. He went to the Chiefs, but the secondary is definitely the biggest question for the Houston Texans going into the season. So my record prediction is I think the Texans go 9-7. I think they sneak into the playoffs. I think, yes, they're worse than I think this being O'Brien's 6th year. I don't know how he has this. If the players are kind of tuning him out a little bit. I mean, this is a year where Bill O'Brien has to be in the playoffs. If the Texans don't make the playoffs, and I'm a big Bill O'Brien guy, if the Texans don't make the playoffs, Bill O'Brien is definitely going to get fired. But I think with Watson, with Watt, and if Clowney's probably going to come back, and DeAndre Hopkins, I think this team sneaks into the playoffs as a number 6 seed. They lose in the first round, but I think this team sneaks in the playoffs and goes 9-7. We'll go on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who made a big offseason addition, adding Nick Foles, and I think that what you're going to see here is out of Nick Foles is you'll see a better Nick Foles than he was in St. Louis. But you won't see Nick Foles be as good as he was in Philadelphia. There's no Alshon. They don't have skill guys like Alshon Jeffrey. They don't have skill guys like Zach Ertz, and they don't have a coach like Doug Peterson, which he has a great rapport with. And if you look at their skill guys, Leonard Fournette, they took him top 4 in the draft in 2017. Had a really good season in 2017, but in 2018 he was banged up. He missed half the year in 2018. So you can't depend on him staying healthy the whole year. And this receiving core is probably one of the worst This receiving core is probably one of the worst receiving cores in the league, with Keenan Cole, with Marquise Lee and Dede Westbrook. Probably one of the worst receiving cores in the league. And then you got Jeff Swain at tight end, probably one of the worst tight ends in the league. Offensive line should be better, and it's not going to be great, but it should be better for the Jaguars this year. They lost Cam Robinson during their Week 2 win against the Patriots last year. They lost Andrew Norwell in Week 9 last year. They lost Brendan Linder in Week 10 last year. It's all going to depend on if Cam Robinson can get back to form. And he's coming off a torn ACL. Didn't have a good rookie year. Was a little bit better last year in the limited games that he played. So that's going to be a big key. Is how is he going to be at left tackle? Because Nick Foles, yes, he was very good. He was very good under. He played well under pressure last year with Jacksonville. But how is that going to end up working out for for them if Cam Robinson is not good. And then Norwell is if he could stay healthy and Linder could stay healthy, this offensive line will be better. Obviously, they got A.J. Cannon, Richardson as the other two positions. And they also drafted Jawan Taylor out of Florida. So this offensive line should be better than it was last year. It should be an improved offensive line. Looking on the defensive side of the ball, one area which, as a Giants fan, this kind of hurts because, Dave Gettleman said, we're going to take the best player available, and Josh Allen was the best player available, but they didn't take him. So they got three defensive ends who could be this third and long. The Jaguar defense could be very scary. When you have Calais Campbell, you got Yannick Ngakoue back in training camp, and then you draft Josh Allen, which was a player when the Giants passed on him. Tom Coughlin knew with the 7th pick, there is no way we could pass on Josh Allen, and they didn't. So that was a big pickup. I think the question mark with this defense is how are they going to be able to stop the run? The last 2 years they haven't been great against the run, and Telvin Smith is taking the year off too, so they're down a linebacker going into this season. They still have Myles Jack at linebacker, but they're down a linebacker going into the year. They also lost Malik Jackson to Philadelphia too, so they've lost some guys on the interior and they lost a linebacker. So the big question will be is how will this team be against the run? We know against the pass how good they're going to be. When you got those three pass rushers, Campbell, Allen, and Ngakoue, and then you got Ramsey and Boye, two of the top 10 corners in the league on the outside, that third down defense is gonna be scary for the Jaguars. And we look at this secondary now with AJ Boye, and Jalen Ramsey, two of the top corners in the league. Those are two really, really, really good corners there. And then you look at the safeties, a little weak at safety with Wilson and Harrison, but still. This third down defense is going to be scary. The issue is going to be the run defense. My overall prediction for the Jaguars is 7-9. I think they'll be a little bit better at last year because they upgraded at QB, but I think the problem is going to be those skill position guys. Can Fournette stay healthy? You can't count on him staying healthy. I think the offensive line will be improved, but not good enough. And I think the run defense is going to hold the Jaguars defense back from being hold the Jags defense back from being a great defense. I think it'll be a good defense. I don't know if it'll be a great defense because of they might struggle against the run. So I'm saying 7-9 for this team, and they missed the playoffs. So 7-9, the Jaguars missed the playoffs. Lastly, we'll talk about the Titans, and the biggest question for the Titans is can Marcus Mariota stay healthy? He has never played a full season in his entire career. They did get Ryan Tannehill as a backup, which was smart because Ryan Tannehill is probably the best backup in the league, and Marcus Mariota is not going to play every game. So it's definitely smart to have him as a backup. One major issue for this team to start the season, though, is one of the best left tackles in the league, Taylor Lewan, is going to be out for 4 games. He's going to be suspended for the first 4 games, and that's kind of selfish to be suspended for the first 4 games because this team went out and signed a pretty big free agent, Roger Saffold. They went at free agency and signed Roger Saffold to make this offensive line one of the top offensive lines in the league. Now you're going to be suspended. You play the most important position in an offensive line with a quarterback that is not very durable. That could be a very huge loss for the Titans in there for the first 4 games of the season. Looking at the Titans' skill guys, looking at their running game, Derrick Henry is going to be the big key. I think that was a big key last year. Derrick Henry, that was a big key why the Titans got hot at the end of the. I think they were 5-6 in after Thanksgiving. They started to, and they had that winning streak where they won 4 in a row because Derrick Henry had those huge games. He had that huge game against the Jaguars, that huge game against the Giants. Henry started to they started to find their real identity because they used Henry, and they kind of went by committee using Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis at the beginning of the year last year. Once they realized that Deion Lewis was the pass catching running back, Derrick Henry was the real back. That's when they started to really find their identity offensively last year. The receiving core, they did draft A.J. Brown. We'll see what that pick is in the second round. They signed Adam Humphries. I think this was a really good signing Adam Humphries. And Corey Davis has to. I mean, he's had kind of a lot of up and down stretches in his career. He really hasn't been that player the Titans wanted. They traded up for. To get at number 5, he needs to start playing like that player that is worth the number 5 pick. He's been up and down. He's had some moments. He had that great game with the Eagles last year. He's had some moments in his career, but he's got to become that guy that the Titans were hoping to get when they drafted him 5th overall. Another thing is hopefully Delaney Walker is healthy because he got hurt last year. How does he come back? That's going to be another big key for the Titans. And obviously this offensive line should be really good, but the problem is Taylor Lewan out for 4 weeks. I mean, you got a really good right tackle in Colin. You went out and got Roger Stafford. Jones is okay, but Taylor Lewan being suspended the first 4 weeks could really, really hurt this team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Looking at the defense, this is a pretty good defense. I mean, you got Jarrell Casey, you got Harold Landry, you got Jaron Brown, you got Wesley Wayard, you did sign Cameron Wake. I mean, I think that Casey is a really good player. I think the run defense is a question. They were 18th last year overall against the run, so they did have issues stopping the run. In the secondary, I think Adoree Jackson's a good player. Malcolm Butler was okay last year, wasn't great. But their best player, and probably their best player on defense, is Kevin Byard. He got signed to a new deal too. He's definitely a top 10 safety in the league. He played really, really well for the Titans last year on defense, and I think this Titan defense could be a good pass defense, but definitely could struggle against the run. This is going to surprise some people, but my final prediction for the Titans is 5-11, and here's why. Mariota's not a sure thing to stay healthy. You have a left tackle, one of the best left tackles in the league, that's going to be suspended for the first 4 weeks of the season. You have some good skill guys, but Walker's coming off an injury. Humphreys is a good player, but not a great player. Corey Davis hasn't shown that he could be completely consistent for an entire season. And you look at the defensive side of the ball. Jarrell Casey's really good, but they struggled to stop the run last year. And Malcolm Butler didn't play up to potential. And didn't play the way that he played in New England during his career. So Malcolm Butler didn't play up to potential either. So I think, and another reason I think why they go 5-11, why they finish in last place is you look at the division. This is the best the Colts are going to be. The Jaguars upgraded to QB. The Texans are still a pretty good team. I think this division is really, really tough, and I think the Titans are the team that suffers from that. And I think they finish in last place and they go 5-11. So that's going to wrap it up for the AFC South preview. Tomorrow, I can't promise it, but I'm going to hope tomorrow. We're going to drop this AFC South preview at 12:30 today. The AFC East preview, which I recorded yesterday, will be dropped at 5 o'clock tonight, and I'm hoping to record tomorrow the well-awaited AFC North preview, and then drop it at 5 o'clock tomorrow. So we'll have a lot of divisional previews on my Facebook page in the next couple days. So this will wrap up the AFC South preview. I'll drop it at 12:30 today. I hope you guys watch. And as again, I love the support for the NFC West video, the NFC West preview video. I'm hoping to get a lot of support for the AFC East video and the AFC South videos today. And I hope you enjoyed your AFC South preview, and have a great day, everybody.